Hi, I'm Michelle King, and I teach at the Environmental Charter School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a cultural literacy teacher, which means I'm responsible for the social sciences part, history, geography, and such. And I teach with my colleague Nick Kazmarek in this course. And my journey starts actually way before then because I taught about 16 years in Mount Lebanon as a history teacher. And I've really been interested in pushing the discussions on learning and young people. I love learning and I hate school. So I love learning and yet hate school. So how can I live with this contradiction that I'm in a place that is supposed to support learning in young people? Several years ago, I decided to write a letter to my superintendent entitled "Is Rome Burning?" to really talk about the changes that were happening in society and how that was reflecting in school, in the nature of school, and the work that we were supposed to be doing. And I'd like to think back to Aristotle and Nicodemean ethics when he talked about this idea of eudaimonia and human flourishing. And can we create institutions in which all people can flourish? And with that kind of thinking, the Learning Instigator emerged because I thought the work that I think I could do best is to really begin to ask questions, and those good questions, because it's easy to come up with these answers, but what are the real questions that lead us to deeper inquiry about the kind of places that we want to create for our young people and the kind of society that we want to create? And this is all the work that's done in the laboratory that we call school. So I began this journey of pushing the boundaries. And what I began to see over time is that even though it felt like I was doing some of this work in isolation, that all across the country, and I would argue across the world, are people having these similar conversations about the kind of society and institutions that we want to have that are supportive and generative and honorable to all that serve, whether you're learning, teaching, staff, any of those positions. So when I think about teaching today versus teaching almost 20 years ago, I think we need to push people to ask the really hard and interesting questions. So one, for example, is how do we get people to thrive? And my colleague, Nick Kazmarek, and as well as the children we've taught for the last 2 years, 7th and now 8th graders, created a game called Thrive. And essentially in this game, Colonial Thrive, you play as one of 10 nations, 5 European nations and 5 Native American nations. And the goal is to thrive in North America, starting in the late 1500s. And it's a complex game that deals with politics and economics and religion, belief systems, all kinds of things. And one of the conditions that we set in this game is that no one could win the game unless everybody was above the failure to thrive index. And that created a very different way of looking at systems, at history. And this is really inspired by John Hunter's work on the World Peace Game. But we made this big physical board game in which we were constantly playing these things out and seeing these systems. And a thing that I think is very critical and which we lack at times as human is thinking about the implications of our decisions. And when they played this big board game, Colonial Thrive, they began to see history playing out, the decisions playing out in real time and over time. We played this game from class to class, over classes, so we had generations writing about the history, and for several months. And these are the kinds of activities, I would say, learning experiences that we need to create. Ones that really get us to wrestle with those difficult questions about society and how it works. Remember, we've created all of these systems. So if we disagree with our political, social, and economic systems, remember, we as humans have created them. Are they really valuing the things that we want as a people and as a society? And particularly of issues of interdependence and interconnectedness, really looking at how we are connected together as a people. So what I would like to offer is a challenge, really, to students, to teachers, to parents, to community, is let's begin creating interesting, challenging learning experience for all of us, whether it's designing a game or creating new spaces in which we can come together and learn across generations, across time. Because we really are in this, in some ways, I would say challenge, but incredibly exciting. If you can learn anytime from anywhere, from anything, what becomes the new ways in which we learn as a people? And what are the new institutions that will emerge when these kind of criteria are in play? And I offer that as a challenge to a community of educators and learners and people committed to living in a more compassionate and mindful world. Thank you.